How's it, guys? Hope you're well. Hope you're good. Thank you for joining me for yet another episode of Talking All Things Health and Safety with myself, Jasper. It's always a pleasure just to talk and ventilate on different topics on health and safety, and hopefully it's adding value to you. Please share, like, subscribe, share with someone, share with guys on WhatsApp groups you are involved in. Just share, like, and participate. Chat with me on the inbox, or rather on the comments there. Drop me a WhatsApp. Let's chat. Let's help each other out. If you ever need any training, please feel free to give us a shout, and we'll be able to gladly assist. My vision is just to equip you with the practical side of health and safety implementation, so that you are good at what you do as a safety officer, but also equipping companies and directors of companies, factory managers, GMR2s, and all with what is expected of you with regards to health and safety. Very, very important, very, very critical element which we do here. Right, today I just want to talk about a very critical topic. I just want to talk about planned task observations. Planned task observations, very, very critical, PTOs. Now, planned task observations is just a simple tool. If I'm to define it simply, it's a simple tool which is used in occupational health and safety to ensure that people do what they are supposed to do, follow the procedure, and do the work and do it right the first time. Now, this is how health and safety works. Section 8.1 simply says that the employer has to provide a workplace which is safe and without risk. Without risk. That part, without risk, simply says there mustn't be any risks. To be able to provide the workplace without risk, you are supposed to do a what? A risk assessment. Now, once you do a risk assessment, you will know that in the risk assessment, you put controls. That is, what for each risk, each hazard, what control are you going to do to ensure that that risk does not result in a consequence. So the controls are engineering controls, administrative controls, PPE, etc. It's isolation, it's this, that, and the other. You're just mitigating the risk. Those are the controls. Now, once you're done with the risk assessment, you take the controls and make a safe work procedure out of those controls. And so for each task, each activity, the controls which are on that risk assessment, you incorporate them into the standard operating procedure so that the things that you have said will control that hazard, they are actually done on the ground. So it becomes part and parcel of the activities of that employee. For instance, if you said someone uses a drill, and part of the controls, you say that they have to wear goggles, or part of the control, they have to wear earplugs, or part of the control, they have to go for training on power tools use. So you put it on take the controls, put them on the procedure, and tell that person to say that when you are going to do this job of drilling, number one, you must have your training. Number two, you must have earplugs. Number three, you must have goggles. So it then becomes something which is done on the ground. It's on the procedure, and you tell them. And the employee is told, and they sign for it, that yes, I'm aware of the procedure. Yes, I'm aware what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to have my training, have earplugs, and have what? Goggles. Now, the planned task observation now is an activity where you want to go and reconcile what's on the procedure and what is happening on the ground. You then go and observe and watch to see that that guy who's doing drilling, on the procedure, we said he must have his training, he must have PPE. Then you go and check, does he actually have the training done on the ground? Number one. Number two, on the ground when he's drilling, does he have the earplugs? Does he have the goggles? So now you are reconciling what's on paper, what's on the risk assessment with what is happening on the ground. So you plan an action of observing those tasks on the ground. Don't worry about what's on paper. Everyone can tick all the boxes on paper, but we have to go and confirm on the ground, is the task being done the way it is said it must be done on the procedure and on the risk assessment. So we then do that. So we come up with a schedule to say that this week we are going to observe the drillers. Next week we observe the ladder users. That other week we're observing working at height. That other week we're observing the guys doing painting. You want to do planned task observations and going to check on the ground, are people following procedures? Now, the planned task observations can be both planned or unplanned. Generally, they are planned, but you can do them unplanned, whereby you don't tell someone that I'm coming to observe, but you just go and observe them unannounced, and that's important. I wrote about the planned task observations on chapter 3 of my book here, A Practical Guide to OHS Implementation. And one of the things I talk about here is what the form must include. What the form must include. I mentioned there that the form for planned task observation must include how long the employee has been doing the task, whether the planned task observation has been notified or it's a surprise one, the reasons for conducting the planned task observations. Are you doing it because the person is a new employee? Are you doing it because there's been poor performance? Are you doing it because workers are inclined to take risks on that activity? Are you doing the PTO because workers who were previously involved in accidents, they are now doing the job again? You just want to see that, are they following the new recommendations? Are you doing it because workers are returning from leave? You just want to make sure that they are back on the job, they know what you are doing. Your planned task observation form must include, has the person been trained, and suggested remedies to say that, okay, yes, we did the planned task observations. What were our findings and what did we get to find out? That's your planned task observations. It's just a tool to reconcile what is on paper on the risk assessment and what is on paper on the safe work procedure to what is happening on the ground. Now, if, here is the clincher now, if on the ground the guy is not wearing earplugs, the guy is not wearing goggles, and the guy was not trained, which means the risk assessment is just nonsense, just there. It's just there for the sake of being there. It means the safe work procedure is just there for the sake of being there, but it's not translating to anything effective on the ground, because where it must matter most, it's where the rubber meets the road on the ground. That's where it meets. That's where it is most effective. So the PTO or planned task observations are there to marry the two, what's on paper and what's happening on the ground. Thank you for joining me for this episode. Give us a shout if you need any training. Give us a shout if you need any assistance with health and safety. Let's do work. Let's do business. Let's do collaborations. Thank you very much. Keep well, guys.